Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. We're just going to give everyone a moment to trickle in here before we get started, but if you hang with us, we could be up and running in 1 minute. Thank you. Hey, I think you guys are good to get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, it's about 1:02. You want to go ahead and get started now, Joshua? You want me to go ahead and get going?
Sure, go ahead and kick us off, Jim.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Harbin. I'm a Deputy Commissioner here with the Department of Planning and Development. Welcome to the Pre-Submittal Conference for the LIRI Program Request for Proposals, or RFP. Today, we're going to take the next hour to walk you through a couple of things. One, we want to walk you through the Local Industrial Retention Initiative and what that program is. We also want to walk you through the RFP process. And then at the end, we will take time to take some of your questions. Although Joshua, my colleague, is going to walk you through some of the housekeeping in terms of how you can go ahead and put your questions into our Q&A platform. We know you guys are very, very busy, but just a couple of tips. Going to make sure that you guys, in terms of doing your response to this RFP, that you guys be intentional about being thorough, about being detailed, and certainly being innovative. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Joshua Langdon, who's going to go ahead and get us started. Joshua.
Great, thanks for that, Jim. Yeah, again, my name is Joshua Langen. I help administer this LIRI program, and we put together a slideshow here that we're going to get into. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. A little bit of housekeeping. I believe the chat's been disabled because the best place to put your questions is in the Q&A section down there. You'll see a little Q&A button, and you can put questions in there. We'll probably save answering questions till the end. Also, I see some of the participants have dual names. I've had this problem myself. You need to change your name. It's pretty easily done. You just go to participant, find your name, and you should be able to change that name. Or put your actual name in the Q&A if you can't do that, just to make sure we know exactly who's on the call. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And all of a sudden, it's been disabled. David, it says green, but it says host disabled, participant screen sharing.
You should be able to share your screen now.
And there we go. Right. Awesome. Okay, hopefully everybody can see. Jim, I'll use you as a test. You can see my slide with the cover sheet for the PowerPoint?
We certainly can, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Again, this is the LIRI program. We just put out an RFP on Monday because we're looking for delegate agencies to assist with this program. And we're out of the Department of Planning and Development. Our Commissioner, Sarah Boatwright. Our Deputy Commissioner for the Bureau is Mary O'Connor. Okay. So we kind of went through some introductions. Basically, we're going to go through about 8 things today. Brief overview of the department, brief overview of the program, sort of what our timeline is today, sort of some general requirements. Then we're going to get into a little bit more specific responsibilities so you all know exactly what is going to be required. Some contract terms, deliverables, talk a little bit about budget, next steps, other responsibilities, and scoring. So kind of kick that off. Planning and Development Department does kind of what you imagine they might do. We promote comprehensive growth and sustainability throughout the city. As a component of that, there's a Small Business Development Bureau that works on strengthening businesses and communities. And part of the Small Business Development Bureau is the LIRI program. So the LIRI program, what we look for, not-for-profit organizations that are delegate agencies to basically assist manufacturers with various needs. We have 26 industrial corridors. It's where most of our manufacturers are located. We want to make sure those corridors are strong. We want to make sure these businesses are supported. And I want to make the LIRI agencies basically look to provide them with opportunities for whatever they may need so they can continue providing good jobs. Real quick on the timeline. So we issued this on Monday. Today's pre-submittal conference day. And this slideshow will be made available to everyone. I think we'll send it out as an addendum or separately, depending on the timing. So you don't have to worry about taking too many notes because we will send this out. We are going to have a deadline for submitting questions, and we'll get you some contact information here in a minute, but it's kind of all over the RFP of November 6th. And then basically applications are going to be due November the 20th at noon. We like to do it at noon, not 5 p.m. Please make a note of that. And don't forget, because noon is maybe easy to forget. In general, their agencies, they conduct engagements, they assess needs, they provide support, they act as counselors. They're really a liaison between the city and the state and all the other agencies and the actual manufacturers. These agencies, LIRI agencies, are going to promote city programs. We have grant programs, we have technical assistance programs, we have all sorts of programs. Basically, we need the LIRIs to go out there and promote all the good things we offer. They're going to do some other things like identify real estate, maybe recommend some infrastructure improvements that they need in their corridor. Basically, they report once a month to the city. Again, just sort of direct reports. You'll probably be using me as your direct day-to-day contact, and I'll use Jim for advisement. He's my manager for this program, and that's the two people you really kind of need to know. A little bit more about responsibilities. You got to log engagements in your contract. You need to identify opportunities for expansion investment, market city programs, as I mentioned, and identify investments, particularly in infrastructure. A little bit more detail on that. This RFP is advertising for a 2-year contract. There's the potential for 2 1-year extensions if necessary, but in general, this is going to be a 2-year contract, so keep that in mind. There are contract deliverables that are clearly spelled out. When if you are selected and you do contract with the city, we will sit down and put a contract together. And again, we're going to be coming up with an exact number of business engagements, needs assessments, marketing outreach, and projects that you need to identify in our computer database system. Speaking of that, the performance is recorded through something called an Enterprise Case Management ECM system. Again, I've reached out and I've trained people how to use this. Don't be too intimidated by it. We can always have you figure out how to use this system. You won't just be left to figure it out on your own. I'm happy to show everybody how to do it. You will be putting those into the system once a month. And then finally, after you put in your deliverables, you can start putting in vouchers to reimburse you for basically 1/12 of your contract, essentially, or hours worked, depending. It should basically be 1/12. You submit those on a monthly basis. If you have your deliverables input into ECM for that month and it matches your voucher, then we pay the voucher, and that's basically our checks and balances system for paying agencies. In the RFP, there are some supplemental budget sheets. The reason we're doing this is because there's a budget portion for what you expect to get paid through the LIRI contract. We are asking for your total agency compensation and expenditures and your total agency revenues so that we can just gauge how big of a portion of LIRI is to your total expenditures and budgets. That gives us a sense of how important we are to your organization, how much we are supporting your organization. So that's sort of the reasoning behind that. Just fill that out as best you can. Again, like Jim said, don't leave anything blank. Try and put an answer to every question. So I talked about corridors earlier. We have 26 corridors. Basically, each LIRI agency, once they are chosen, will be given an area. Now, I realize the RFP asks you to put an area together and submit it. You're not necessarily going to be given that area to service. It may change slightly or maybe a lot, depending on, when we sit down and do contract negotiation with a successful person chosen through the RFP, we will go ahead and, as part of the contract, figure out what your service area is going to be so that the entire city is covered.
Yes.
So basically you're going to be your area to report your engagements and your other deliverables.
Okay.
There's some other responsibilities that kind of come along with this as well. You'll see in the contract a need to sponsor your own local job fair and to participate in a citywide job fair. This has been done for a number of years. There are, if any agencies are selected that have done this before, the LIRI agencies get together collaboratively and put together a citywide job fair. So you won't be in charge of doing that on your own. We have an annual manufacturing awards program, varies a little bit year by year. We'll probably be asking for maybe, can you nominate a manufacturer, give some input? There's a little bit of assistance that goes in with that. Other city initiatives, and that's really more if an agency reaches out to me or federal, county, and they want to distribute information, we like to distribute that information, see if you want to participate in any of their grant programs or something like that. Finally, our planning department does industrial corridor plans. I think we did 2 this year, and we'll figure out how that's going to work. That's not a solid. It's different every year. So when if we have any corridor plans next year, or 2026, again, this is a 2-year contract, we will work with you to figure out how best you can support those efforts. Here's a lot of words on one slide, and it talks about just the RFP sort of technical stuff. Again, it's going to be reviewed to make sure that you've addressed all the questions, and please try to complete everything. If there's any irregularities, we have some discretion, but in general, try and be consistent. There will be a review panel, and you'll see some scoring criteria in there. And we'll talk about that here in a second. And then essentially, we want to make sure that you have the ability to do this work. You have a catalog of manufacturers that you can reach out to. You've done this before. You know your service area. You know which corridors need assistance and which need more support, and which ones need less support. You know how to fulfill a contract. You know how to get your deliverables done, get them entered into a system, and do accounting to put vouchers together. You kind of need to tell us your strategy of how you generally do this type of work, because a lot of your agencies do other work with other governments and other government agencies, and that's a great example. So, hey, we also participate in this program, and this is our great strategy for how we get those deliverables done. And we go, oh, wow, that's great. That looks like you know how to get deliverables done. Again, you need to have some accounting to get your invoicing done. Importantly, you need to be able to, this is a reimbursement grant program. So at the end of the month, your workers have already done the work and they've already been paid, and you get to get reimbursed for those workers you just paid. So you need to be able to cover those costs. You can't just rely on us for upfront funding for anything. It's a reimbursement situation. And basically, we're just looking for overall quality and completeness. Scoring, organizational overview, kind of what's your goals, what's your mission? Do they align with our mission, which is basically to support those industrial corridors and those businesses? Service provision. Do you kind of know how many manufacturers you have? What are the characteristics and trends of your areas? Is it undergoing rezoning a lot? Is there pressure? What's the relationship between the neighborhoods and your industrial manufacturers? Your work program. What's your strategy for protecting, outreach? Do you do it, 5 at a time? Do you do this daily? Do you do this priority wise? We really want to hit the large manufacturers first and the small ones second, or exactly do you plan on doing that? Monitoring, how are you making sure you are keeping up to date, not just with LIRI, but just in general, especially with your expenditures. We are trying to get ECM, the system you will use, to report better and better. Right now, reporting, it's always undergoing improvement. So we want to help you with that monitoring, but we would like to know that you are actually monitoring your progress as well. Finally, capacity. Do you have the staff to do this? Sometimes staff get stretched thin and a lot of responsibilities on just 1 or 2 members. We'd like to know that you have some flexibility and some ability to really cover all this work. Subcontractors, I think, are rare. I've seen subcontractors maybe done for some of the vouchering and accounting work, but other than that, the work is generally done by the agency itself. You may have different situations. Please explain that, how you might use a subcontractor to help out with this. Finally, have you ever worked with any other agencies? If you have great experience with federal grants or state grants, that's a plus. It's a bonus. Wow, you have the ability to reach out to other support for your manufacturers. Finally, budget. Just put together something that's reasonable, that we can clearly review, and we'll just want to make sure that makes some sense and compares to what we think we can afford. That's basically my presentation. I think maybe we can go into questions and answers again. Let's get questions due by November 6th. Submit questions at dpd@cityofchicago.org. I realize that Jim's email is probably on the cover of this thing. I realize my email is in the body of this RFP. So that's fine as well. We prefer dpd@cityofchicago.org, but if it happens to come to Jim or I, that's fine. Like I said, what we'll do is all questions will be collected and answered, and we'll send them all out in one addendum. So nobody's going to be left out of the loop on anything. All questions will be answered and they will be made available to everybody. Again, applications due November 20th at noon. Let me figure out how to stop sharing my screen here.
Okay.
So I can always bring this back up if needed, but I went ahead and stopped sharing my screen. Not seeing any questions in the Q&A. You can participate. You can ask questions as well, because we are recording this, so it doesn't have to be written. So if you have any questions you want to ask, Jim and I are ready to answer those. And Nora Curry has joined us, by the way, and she's another DPD staff person that can help answer questions. All right. So Jim Longino has asked, I'm reading from the Q&A. Do we know how much is the whole overall proposed budget for the program? Since we haven't adopted a city budget, I don't know that I can give you a specific answer on that. Jim or Nora, do you want to give an answer, or I just don't know. The city hasn't adopted the budget yet.
Hey, it's Nora. We did put something in the RFP about what it's been in the past, right?
Yep, that's a good point. Let me just pull that up. Got that right here. So it does say in the RFP, yeah, annual funding was last year 841,223. This anticipated 2025 funding is 900,000. But again, word anticipated, and Jim used the word proposed. Take it exactly as that. Somebody is typing or something? No, maybe not. Okay. Contracts, while we're talking about budget, somewhere between 40,000 and 130,000. In general, it's going to depend on sort of your service area and some other factors. And it says that in the RFP, so that'll give you an idea of the range that we're looking at. All the target dates are in there. There are some links. Go to e-procurement. Don't wait on this. The sooner you can get in there and get started, the better off you're going to be. Don't wait to the last minute. And that way, if you have questions, you can get them to us. Especially about. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we've got a question here from Beth. Do you want to let her, or she wants to? She's got a raised hand. Do you mind if I let her
Okay.
talk?
Sure, Beth, go right ahead.
I'm noticing someone's been talking during the presentation, maybe be me or something. Could anyone?
And we wanted to be popular.
Hang on. All right, yeah, we're just in an office environment, so I've got everybody on notice that we are recording, so we should be quieter from here on out. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, did anybody miss anything due to any noise interference?
Yeah, Joshua, this seems like a pretty seasoned group of participants on the call. So I think we're kind of lucky there. But again, if some questions come up later, why don't you just go over the process again to get those questions over to us?
Yeah, so that's a good point, Jim, because there's actually multiple ways. In the RFP, in iSupplier itself, the e-procurement system, I think there is the ability to ask questions through that system, but there's also DPD at cityofchicago.org or me or Jim. So there's multiple ways to ask questions. At the end, we'll consolidate all those questions and answers and make sure everybody gets those.
And we've got another hand raised from Bernard Jennings. I'm gonna let him talk.
Oh, okay.
You want to go ahead and talk? If you can unmute yourself, go ahead and ask away.
Yes, this is Bernard Jennings. Do you anticipate there will be any increase in the budgets this year? So we can somewhat anticipate that driving our submitted budget requests?
You know, I would say that this, anticipated 900,000. I wouldn't anticipate that going any higher. I don't know any reason why that would increase.
Mhm.
As for your individual budget, you can ask for whatever you think is reasonable. Again, we use the word reasonable. But given that we had 841,000 for 23 and 24 per year, and we have 900,000, you can see that's only an increase of $59,000. So, if you want to kind of let that be your guide that this program is not doubling in size, doubling in funding. I mean, it's going up by 6 or 7%. Again, reasonable is the key here. So The actual numbers, of course, will come up with during contract negotiations.
Okay, so we'll basically submit it just about where we were last year, and then we'll anticipate a wonderful surprise from you guys when we get our final budget.
What? Submit the budget you think you need to get the work. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Hey, Josh, this is Nora. I had to step away for a second, so you may have covered this, but I know you changed some of the forms since we do have some wise people on the some experienced folks. Did you point out which ones were new? And would that be helpful?
Which forms in the RFP itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a slide that basically
Okay.
showed overall agency, and it's good to stress this again. We do want to know your overall agency expenditures and your overall agency revenue. So there'll be a section in the RFP where you manually enter what you want from the LIRI program, and then these two tables are extraneous that just try to help us gauge the size of your LIRI portion of your organization.
So there's not that big cost allocation sheet that people remember from the past. Josh has made it much more straightforward.
Yeah, so two attached spreadsheets that are pretty condensed.
Yeah. And hopefully it will be better. More information. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So I guess you've basically got about 3 weeks to do this. Like I said, get started sooner than later on this. Let us know if you have run into any roadblocks or anything, or interpretation of what the questions might mean. I think it's all pretty straightforward. We did think through the questions and they sort of link to each other. So if you start to get the general understanding of why, I think it'll be pretty straightforward. I don't anticipate a lot of confusion or open-ended questions. It seemed very succinct when we wrote it. All right, I guess we're not seeing any more questions in the Q&A or verbally.
No,
So, Jim, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think this is a pretty seasoned group. Everyone on the call knows how to reach out to either one of us, Nora, yourself or myself. Yeah, and if there aren't any more questions, we'll certainly give you back 30 minutes of your time. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if needed. And I want to wish everybody the best of luck in terms of this RFP.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
All right. David, I guess you can end the call whenever you're ready.
Great. Thanks again, everyone, for attending.